Yes, the big news is the reform of one Runcorn. They've got another MP in Parliament, and it's been a quite remarkable night for reform in all sorts of councils and also some mayoral races as well. Big swings going to Nigel Farage's party, 30%, 35% in some places. Andrea Jenkins is now the new mayor of Lincolnshire. I've just reshuffled my sewing room, says Nan in Wales. It's still a mess. A reshuffle for Starmer will also be a waste of time, and it will still be a mess. And Becky says, is Blair coming out of retirement to take over from Starmer? Now, there's an idea that nobody's thought of. Let's talk to Andy Mayer, energy analyst at the Institute of Economic Affairs, who's got something to say about the big other story, the two big stories, really, of the election and why reform are doing so well. Net zero, which the government is still pushing for, and, of course, immigration. Andy, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Yesterday we heard that the government was keen on putting solar panels on all new houses, new builds, within the next 2 years. I know you've got things to say about that, but this morning, even more surprisingly, they're now saying that Ed Miliband and Angela Rayner are going to get together and make gas boilers outlawed on new homes as soon as next year. I mean, they seem to be on this mad crusade to sort of make it all happen even quicker.
So this is two parts of the same story.
Yeah.
So what this is all about is the Future Home Standard, which is the thing that defines what the building regulations are going to be in the future.
Yeah.
And the last government looked at this toxic issue and decided very sensibly after 5 years that they weren't going to touch it with a barge pole. But Ed Miliband has come roaring back in and said, no, we want this stuff because it will help us achieve our ideological net zero mission. And what that means for you and I, or particularly for younger people who are usually the buyers of new homes, is that the cost of those homes is going to go up.
Yeah.
So the government has said it will be £3,000 to £4,000 for a solar panel installation. That's not true. It's more likely to be £6,000 to £10,000. Right. They will now make sure that you have to buy a heat pump, which can be anything from £8,000 to £15,000. And this is not pocket change. I mean, homes have a much higher ticket price. The actual building cost of a home is, on average, about £130,000 to £140,000.
Right.
So that's quite a sizable chunk of that cost. And then quite a lot of the rest of the cost is the cost of regulations and planning and permitting and all the other paperwork that these regulations are going to make much, much worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian Collins had a caller yesterday, funnily enough, because he was talking about the solar panel story. And this guy said that he had a house in Spain and a house in the UK, and he put solar panels on both of them. And in the Spanish house, the solar panel installation was £3,000, and in the English house, it was £10,000. And his argument was somebody's making an awful lot of money out of all this.
Well, it's the way we do building regulations. So we insist that everything has to be box ticky. Yeah. And that's the way developers will approach this. Most developers have argued against the government doing it. So they thought they'd won back in October, but then they got overturned by the solar panel lobbyists. And what they say is, well, OK, we'll do this, but it'll be sloppy, basic installations, and it'll then be the homeowners who are left with a legacy of that and possibly very expensive rectification costs. And I'm not just saying this has happened before repetitively. So we saw it with the Green Deal at the start of the last decade, where the government insisted that energy efficiency measures were something that should be much more encouraged. And that led to a new industry being built around very sloppy standards. And we've seen it with the installation of panels on the outside of buildings, which led tragically to several of those buildings burning down. Yeah. So the government really should stay out of this. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with solar panels or heat pumps. Should be for the homeowners to decide whether they want them or not, and it's very dependent on the individual house where they're going to work well for you. Right.
And given that we've now been told that we won't be buying any solar panels from China if those solar panels have been created by slave labour, specifically the Uyghur Muslims, you know, where are we going to get all these solar panels from? Because there's not that many other places you can find manufacturers, is there?
Well, for this to succeed, the government needs to buy solar panels from China where they're cheaper, and the Chinese are masters at diverting supply chains. Yeah. So, yeah, there are going to be solar panels made by forced labour in the Uyghur region, making their way through black channels through to the UK to service this. I mean, I should say this is also an EU initiative. The EU has decided they've got their own rooftop solar initiative that's coming in by 2029. So it looks very much like the Labour Party are echoing the EU on this. And there you've got the same delusional rhetoric that you're going to have a homegrown industry that will somehow beat the Chinese at their own game, which is rubbish. Yeah. The only way you can do that is through massive tariff barriers of the kind we've seen Trump trying to impose in the US and all the damage that causes. Yeah. So the cost ultimately falls on you and I. It goes up and up and up, and the cost of net zero is something we cannot bear.
Quite. It's very well put and well said. Andy Mayer, thank you very much indeed. Energy analyst at the Institute of Economic Affairs, on the madness of Mad Ed Miliband.